Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Child Anxiety Fact Podcast. My name is Dawn Friedman, and I'm the owner of Child Anxiety Support, a membership for parents of anxious kids. I have my master's in clinical counseling and additional postgraduate training in child anxiety disorders, including exposure and response prevention and the Supportive Parenting for Anxious Childhood Emotions program, or SPACE program, which was designed by Dr. Ellie Lebowitz of the Yale Child Study Center. I'm also certified in infant-toddler mental health. FACT stands for Frequently Asked Questions, and each week I'll be answering your questions about childhood and teen anxiety. Let's get started. This week we're answering the question from a listener who asks, does my child have social anxiety or are they just shy? They offered some other details I'm not going to share here because I'm going to answer the basic question of how do we tell the difference? And I like this question because I do think it's really confusing. If you listen to the episode about why encouragement doesn't always work for anxious kids, that's episode number 48, we talked a lot about temperament, particularly about the slow to warm temperament. And temperament is what we're going to talk about here too. Some kids are just more shy than others, meaning that they take more time to warm up in social situations. Some kids are more introverted too, which means that they don't need as much social stimulation as other kids. They may find social situations more of a drag on their energy, and so those children and teens may have fewer friends. And that's fine. It's fine to like being alone. It's fine to hang back in social situations until we are comfortable. And it's fine to enjoy one or two close friends rather than to want to hang out with a crowd. It's all fine. Shy children and introverted children are living out a preference. They prefer smaller situations. They prefer to come to things on their own time. They may like a big party, but they may want to hang at the edges. Or they may have no interest in a big party, but would like a celebration with just one or two really good friends. Now, socially anxious kids are different. They are not living out a preference. They want to be social, or at least more social than they are being, and are unable to because of their anxiety. Or when they are doing the social things they like, they are not able to enjoy it because of their anxiety. Socially anxious children and teens may also be shy, and they may also be introverted, and that's one reason it can be very difficult to tease things out. So let's compare the two. A shy child will eventually warm up in social situations. A socially anxious child may continue to feel distressed, or their distress might increase, or they might dread social situations that they still kind of want to participate in. So in other words, a shy child may hang back in a social situation, while a socially anxious child will be distressed and may increase in distress instead of becoming more comfortable as time goes on. A shy child may prefer one or two close friends over a crowd. A socially anxious child may struggle with whatever friendships they have, worrying that the friends they do have don't like them, or worrying that their friends are secretly upset with them, even when there is no indication that that could be true. A shy child may be reluctant to attend a large social gathering, but they won't necessarily be avoidant. They might roll their eyes or grouch about going, but they'll still be more or less willing to go. The socially anxious child may panic and refuse to go, or struggle to sleep the night before, full of dread, or repeatedly ask you if they can stay home or if you think that it's going to be okay when they go. A shy child's functioning is fairly consistent. You know which situations they prefer and which they don't. A socially anxious child's functioning likely gets worse over time if there's no intervention. They may be unpredictable, willing to attend a social event one day and then the next bottoming out and unable to get out of the car and head into the party. The shy child might prefer to stay home. The socially anxious child struggles to leave the house. So there's preference, and then there's ability. The shy child can push past their limits when they're motivated to. The socially anxious child feels trapped by their limits. It's the difference between someone saying, "All right, fine, whatever, I'll do it," and someone who melts down or beats themselves up because they can't do it. Shy children don't have the performance worries of the socially anxious. So a shy child may not like having to order in a restaurant, but they won't go hungry if nobody does it for them. The socially anxious child may become frozen and seem unable to speak. Now let's look at some examples, and hopefully you'll be able to recognize your child in one of these if you're wondering, is it shy or is it socially anxious? The first child is socially anxious and outgoing. They want to be part of the crowd. They're sorry to miss out on the school dance or soccer team tryouts. They are unhappy not being a part of things, but they are excessively worried about failing or about being made fun of or of not getting things right. They almost have stage fright in situations that aren't on stage, that aren't public, but are performing in front of somebody outside of the family. The second child is socially anxious and more introverted. They may express that they are lonely. They may sometimes ask, "Is something wrong with me?" because they don't know how to fit in. You may look back and see that they tended to smaller groups or just one friend at a time, but now you are seeing them becoming more isolated. Now, the child who is introverted but does not have social anxiety does not express unhappiness with their social life. I mean, yeah, they might complain now and then. We all sometimes feel left out. But generally speaking, they have a solid friend or two. They're able to participate in things. They may not be joiners, but if they want to do a thing with someone like go to the movies or try out a new class, they're able to do this. If you're not sure if none of this has really helped, then think about how your child communicates about social events. Are they like, "Ugh, fine, I'll go, but I'm not going to like it"? Or are they excessively worried, asking for reassurance, telling you how everyone is dumb or mean or will judge them? Do they project a negative idea of how things are going to turn out? Is there an emotional component that you're seeing, a digging in of their heels? And are things getting worse for them? Is their social life getting smaller? Are they fretting about friend drama to the point that the drama is bigger than the friendships? You can also look at their functioning across their lifetime. Introverted babies may make less eye contact or be less interested in engaging with strangers. You know how babies often go through a period where they're sort of being adorable for people like the cashier at the checkout line? Shy babies are not interested in this. One of my children was shy but not socially anxious, and as a preschooler, when people would try to engage with them, he'd just point at me. He didn't have trouble doing this. He didn't cry or hide his face. He'd just point at me to answer because he'd prefer not. My other child was and is extremely outgoing, but struggles with some social anxiety, and this appeared later in life, during adolescence, which is not atypical. The fact that it was different than her functioning up until then pointed to it being an anxiety issue and not a preference. We see social anxiety crop up in kids when social demands increase. I see it around 8 or 9, especially for girls, and I see it a whole lot in middle school. No wonder, right? Because those are socially anxious times. Just because it's developmentally typical doesn't mean we should ignore it or assume they'll outgrow it. Untreated anxiety tends to get worse, and kids who are prone to anxiety in one area are more likely to have anxiety in other areas too. There are no downsides to learning anxiety coping tools. And back to that functioning across a lifetime, There seems to be a connection between separation anxiety and social anxiety. So if you had a child who struggled to separate, you may see that shift into social anxiety as they get older. If you have questions about any of this, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you have a question you would like me to answer on the show, please go to childanxietysupport.com/FAQ. And if you'd like to learn more about the Child Anxiety Support membership, please go to childanxietysupport.com. The membership offers courses, live events, and community to help you design a personalized program to free your family from the trap of child anxiety. I hope you'll consider subscribing to the podcast and sharing it with any friends or family who you think might find it helpful. You can get more of my child anxiety content over at Instagram, where I'm Dawn Friedman, MSED, or on Facebook at the Child Anxiety Support page. Thanks again, and have a great week.